I love Yoshi's Woolly World, don't you? Dare I say this is one of the best 2D platformers ever, at least from Nintendo. Obviously, the arts and crafts aesthetic is beautiful from start to finish with a great soundtrack to accompany it, and following suit from Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo, all that window dressing is there to offset just how difficult this adventure is. It's not unbearable, but just enough to make this a much more well-rounded experience than, say, something like Yoshi's Crafted World. And one of the best components of Woolly World are the costumes. Alternate Yoshi designs are unlockable in every single stage, as well as with a large lineup of the amiibo. It is perfect amiibo functionality and an all-timer for the whole platformers with customizable skins idea. Now with the Wii U release, not every amiibo was compatible because more were releasing after this game came out, so when the 3DS version, Poochy and Yoshi's Woolly World hit the scene, more characters were added. Special shoutouts to the 3DS exclusives Wolf Link, Tom Nook, Ryu, Boo, and Rover with his evil demon eyes, and most of all, a Yoshi design maker. This was incredible. So of course I went ahead and made some of my favorite characters in here. Phoenix Wright, Sly Cooper, Bomberman, Buck Bumble, Roy, and hell, Nathan Drake. Why not? And for my Amiibo retrospective video, I even made Minecraft Steven, so why not? Let's keep going. I made over a dozen other designs because I just couldn't help myself. I made some first party, some third party. Hopefully this inspires some of you to go back to this game and make some designs of your own. And I just want to show off some of the ones that I made, so let me know what you think down below, and let's begin. So the first character I wanted to make was Bayonetta. Something about having a Bayonetta-themed Yoshi was the funniest thing in the world to me because of how adult-themed Bayonetta is, and just having that consolidated into a very tiny, adorable Yoshi toy. That seemed great, so of course I had to start with this one. And also making human characters as Yoshis always seemed like a bit of an interesting challenge, using the skin tone as well as figuring out how the hair works, and you know, you can't have the hair overlap the big nose, so the big nose is gonna stay skin color, but then do we add lipstick? We have to add the little dot on her face because, you know, that checks out, that makes sense with the character. There's a lot of intricacies with this one. When it comes to the main outfit though, this one did end up working out pretty easily. You know, the way this game works out is you see the giant square when it comes to how you're designing the chest and everything, and it's kind of hard to place together where the pixels are going to show up on the final design, so figuring out that part of it is a bit of a challenge, but once all that stuff sort of falls into place, then you can see here, yeah, that kind of looks like Bayonetta's top. I based this all on the Bayonetta 2 design, since that is the primary design I was going with when I was playing as her in Smash, so made sense there. But then, the most important part of all, I had to put the guns in there, right? I had to. It was really hard to properly convey the idea of a gun on Yoshi's feet. You don't really have a lot of room to work with. I made myself a little canvas here of what is visible, and had to fit, like I had to fit a gun in just this very tiny square and have it look right, and I don't know, it kind of does. It's quirky and cute because both guns on both feet have a different color. So you look at one foot, you look at the other foot, they're a different color, one's blue, one's red, so it ends up looking kind of accurate. You know, all this combined with the exposed skin on Bayonetta's back and the back of her legs, and I gotta tell you, this kind of gets the job done. I wasn't really happy with the lipstick, so I removed that as a final thing. It just didn't look right, just that little red dot. Like, it's hard to get all of the colors to look exactly as you want, because you are limited to only having 7 colors on your entire design, but you know what? All things considered, don't F with the witch as the catchphrase. I say this looks like a pretty damn good Bayonetta Yoshi. Or Kirby, because I wrote down Kirby, because I'm an idiot, and I have brain rot. I have Kirby brain rot. That's not to be surprised. Let's keep going with the main Smash Bros. Roster, some of the characters that didn't get a proper costume in Yoshi's Woolly World. Now this one was always weird to me, but Pikachu never got a costume, despite being there from the very beginning with the Smash Bros. Line. This is because the Pokemon Company clearly doesn't like fun. For whatever reason, there are restrictions with this game and Mario Maker. They just didn't want their characters represented like as good as all the other characters in Smash, and I really don't understand that. So with the Maker, I went ahead and decided to right that wrong. And with Pikachu, you know, Pikachu has to be the one You got a bunch of Pokemon to choose from. There's Pokemon Trainer you could choose from too. Those are all great picks, and you know, maybe in the future we can tackle that topic, but Pikachu has to be the one, right? We cover them in yellow, we give them red cheeks, you can make the spines on the back nice black with a little bit of yellow. You know, it's hard to get the exact design, you are restricted in where the colors can kind of go specifically when it comes to those, because when you touch one of the spines on the back, it touches all three of them. This is likely something that wouldn't happen if there was an official design, but you know, you make do with what you got. Then on the back shell, I added just a light layer of black around the yellow, and this one is to kind of represent how the tail looks with the dark transitioning into the light. Again, with the limited color palette, there's only so much you can do to make it look the part, but I think the back looks close enough to the tail that, you know, I'm okay with it. I darkened the feet a little bit just because, why not? Added a little bit of shading where I could, and yeah, that kind of wraps up Pikachu. You know, all things considered, there's not much you can really do. If an official Pikachu ever exists, I'm sure it would look pretty identical to this. But you know, the whole thing with this game, you zoom the character out a little bit as you're playing the game and it looks like the character, then I think the job is well done. So there you go, Pikachu with his big old catchphrase, P. But now I want to change things up a little bit. I don't want to just make a bunch of characters that have amiibo that aren't in the game. Like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go a little bit outside the box, but sticking to first party, I figure, hey, you know what? Since this game released, we can take a look at Samus, who's already in the game, and say, hey, isn't there a new suit that we can play with? And yes, I figured it would be really cool to go ahead and make the Dread outfit, because Samus's outfit in Metroid Dread is sick. I love the new suit, so I figured why not, let's just kind of take the Samus that's already in the game and make it a nice shade of blue. So a lot of this is just based on the design that's already in the game, but taking a few creative liberties to make the blue suit on the chest. You get the blue cheeks. When it comes down to the arm cannons, this type of really finite detail is the stuff that I was enjoying the most during this process, just going in and figuring out how to put individual lines and seeing if they can accent the other colors. This is my favorite part. So on the right side, we got the arm cannon, and on the other side, we just got like a bunch of cool black and white straight lines. It kind of gets the job done. I mean, look at their feet. Got the black line on the bottom, black line on the top, the little green bit in the middle for the lights. Like, you know what? All things considered, I really think this is pretty cool. I think, once again, you zoom the character out, it looks like Samus, but with a different outfit. This is the stuff I really like. And honestly, it does make sense, because with this re-release, they added the additional Splatoon recolors when they gave that line a new print for whatever reason. So realistically, this seems like an outfit that would be in the game. So that's all I could really ask for. And yeah, burned my Dread. It's not a Metroid reference, but it's the first thing that came to mind. And then, yeah, you could probably see where I was going with this. Why not? If we can do this with one character, let's do it with another. You take a look at Link, and when you put Link in Yoshi's Woolly World, we get the classic green tunic design. That's great. But modern Smash has the Breath of the Wild design. That's the most current Zelda game anyway, so this makes the most sense to try to have the Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom Link in Yoshi's Woolly World. I'm gonna say it's Breath of the Wild because even though it's mostly like a blue outfit and there's no tunic, I didn't go ahead and try to recreate the arm thing from Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that's the big difference. There's enough intricacies with this design anyway, so yeah. But since this is already based on a pre-existing design, once again, we can follow the same design philosophies and then just tinker with things as we see fit. And one of the things with the Breath of the Wild design, there's a lot of tiny details on his outfit to try to get right with a very, very limited amount of space. You see, once again, you got that big square and it's like, oh, this is for the body, but only the top half is for the chest. So to really get all of that design in there and look the part, it's pretty tough because it's all the blue, and then you got the multiple belts that are going around. It was a lot of belts, and I had to make sure you also had the little pouch for the Sheikah slate. Like, that was important as well. And all things considered, I think it turned out pretty good. We go in the back here and we lighten up the bottom bit to make it look like the bottom of the outfit. That checks out. You see the legs and the feet. We have the shoes looking there. That looks pretty nice. A nice different shade of brown, so it doesn't look like all one piece. A little Easter egg on the back. And, you know, I didn't really put a shield or anything, but I got the Triforce in there. You know, that's gotta be there. That's one of those cute things that you're not really gonna see often when you're playing the game anyway, but if you look closely, there it is. in case it really didn't register that this is, in fact, Link. There you go. I really dug how I handled the arm little bracelets too. The green and orange stripes, like you don't really pay attention to that part too often until you're really looking at it. You know, I think because there are so many different parts of this outfit, there are some more changes that could be made if I had more options, but because of the play window so small, I'm pretty happy with this. I am happy and content with Breath of the Wild Link, and hey, we could take this, modify it to look like Tears of the Kingdom Link, gets the job done. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. Link of the Wild says Wild Breath. I couldn't really think of anything else, and I didn't want to go with just the cliche Kia. That's overdone, so Wild Breath it is. But see, now I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. I figured, okay, we're working with all the base characters already, that makes a lot of sense. What if we take the biggest amiibo there is and try to consolidate that into this really, really small design window we have? So Big Man was my next attempt, and you know, for as big as this character is, because there weren't a whole lot of colors to worry about, this turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to going in. I went into this thinking that this was going to be more stressful to get every little bit to make it really look like Big Man, but actually, there's only two design philosophies that are worth following here. It is the red strap around his eyes, like that one ended up making a whole lot of sense, but it was cool because this is a combination of two different parts of the body, so getting those two things to work together for the top of the nose as well as the top of the head, I was happy with that. I think that part ends up looking a lot better. Like that was the most creative thing I had to do, was get those two body parts to work together, because just putting an outline around the eyes didn't work, but this I like. And then the second design philosophy is really just putting in majority dark gray and then spattering in some light gray wherever you can, because that is really what Big Man's all about. It's not just a big old slab of gray, it is a big old slab of dark gray with a lot of light gray in the chest, and then it sort of fades out with this bubble pattern as it goes out towards his arms and his feet. So once again, one of the whole ideas of you just zoom the character out, it looks like Big Man, that's what's most important. And luckily, his catchphrase was already there for me, didn't have to think about it. Ayy. And then, yeah, sure, why not? I can fantasize a little bit. Like, what if Chibi Robo was prevalent enough that he made it into Smash Brothers? You know, it's possible. And you know, I put that down. And you know what? All it is just gray. You know, Mr. Game & Watch can get around just being all black. Realistically, it's just gray. I could have put a plug maybe on the back, but that's him. And then I thought, okay, you know what? Fine. That was far too simple. It did technically get the job done. I want to spice things up a little bit more. So why not take another character that was almost kinda gonna be in Smash per rumors? It was either gonna be the Chorus Kids, some Rhythm Heaven rep, so I went with Karate Joe. I thought Karate Joe made a lot of sense, and this character was gonna be fun from the jump because it's all white with just a bunch of black outlines. How do you portray that and get the parts that make Karate Joe in one go? And I think I did okay. You know, it's mostly just a whole lot of white. It's like a whole body of white. You got the black nose. You got the eyelids, kinda, so like a little bit of black around the eyes, the hairs on the spines, that one made sense, and then the gi. Making the karate gi was the coolest part, because it's not symmetrical. There's a little bit of nuance going in there with how it comes down the chest, where it goes down the legs. With a character like this, there's only so much you can do, but I do think I nailed it. There's not a whole lot more you can do. It's also one of the few times I was able to take the nose and do something a little more interesting with it, because a lot of times it's just a single color for the character you're basing it on. But here, I got to do something a little bit fun, and yeah, I made a Karate Joe. God, I love Rhythm Heaven so much. They should have been in Smash. And then I said, you know what, let's take one of the most complicated first-party designs and try to make that into a Yoshi. Let's try to make Ridley. And, you know, on the surface, I thought it'd be a lot simpler, but man, you take a look at Ridley, there are a lot of just straight lines of different shades of purple. How do you really convey that without looking like just a big old purple blob? And the idea that I went with was go with primarily a dark purple and then lighten up and do some accents around the eyes, around the cheeks. You got the toes, you got the lines that separate the toes, so that looks the part. I put a little bit of dark for the nose to get the nostrils in there. I don't know how well that comes off, but I had to do something there, because I mean, Ridley has it. I had to have more color in there somewhere. And then the rib cage, like the almost visible rib cage is one of the most notable features about this character. So I did that design, that comes off really well. And what's cool about Yoshi's Woolly World on 3DS is if you're not happy with the colors, you can change that color in your palette and it'll automatically do the work for you. So the initial purples I wasn't okay with, changed it up, started to look a little bit better, started to look more like the character I was trying to make. I think this is one of those times where this would look a whole lot better if you were able to also change the eye color like the official costumes, because I have to stick with the white eyes and the black pupils. I can only do so much. I can't change the eye color like Nintendo can with Rover or Boo. This is all I'm working with here, and I think it looks fine. Could be better, definitely needs an official design, but you know, as it says right there, from the beginning, we all knew he was just way too big. This was tough. And now it's time to go third party. Let's take a look at some of the third party characters that got an amiibo and see just what would happen if they were in the game. I started off here with Solaire from Dark Souls because I didn't really have a reason, but I wanted to do Dark Souls. I wanted to do Solaire because the design of his outfit and his chest is so intricate. I wanted to figure out how to make that work, and I think I did okay. There are an astounding amount of different colors going on with this character, and I only have 7 colors to work with, so figuring out how to make everything work and not, you know, being allowed to do a lot of different intricate shading, it's just a bunch of solid colors. It was tough, but, you know, I think I got the armor, I think I got the helmet down with the line down the middle. That kind of has the look. All the artwork I see is of like a little feather behind his head, behind his eyes, so I went with a little bit of yellow there on the eyelid, if you can catch that. And then there's the chest piece. And this one, oh man, this was a little bit tough as well, but you got the red sun design in the center with the yellow in the middle. There's obviously like a very intricate design on the actual character, but I think this gets the point across. And then you got the little bit of green that goes into the gray, that goes into the hands. You got the belt on the chest. Like, man, there was a lot. This was one of the most overly designed characters in the entire bunch that I did. And then I looked at more artwork of the character and saw that the feather could be red instead of yellow. Like, you know, I'm not a big Dark Souls guy, so I don't know. I just like how the character is designed. And you know, I altered the grays a little bit, and I think I'm okay with this. I think this looks, once again, one of the big things is making sure it looks like the character from afar. That yellow sun on the gray, that really works. The little bit of green, that really works. So yes, I would say this is as good as you're ever gonna get. Here is the Solaire Yoshi. Indeed, praise the sun. This is truly the Dark Souls of Yoshis. Now, as for third-party characters that did get an amiibo that are also in Smash Bros., you gotta talk about Joker from Persona 5. That was such a big deal when he was announced for Smash Bros. So trying to get that into a Yoshi, that sounded like a lot of fun, because, you know, I could have went with the basic human design, and that would be, you know, realistic. You know, you just make a human with the school outfit, it would look the part, but nah. We want to get the Phantom Thief in here, right? That's what we all wanted to see. So it all comes down to having the mask around the eyes, and I think I got that part looking good. The skin tone of the rest of the face, it really amplifies how the mask looks around the eyes. Just a little bit of black around the eyes, once again, does a great job amplifying the whole design. I think, again, if I was able to customize the eye color, there could be something done there to make that dark, to make it look more like he's completely covered in a mask, but I'm okay with that. And then the rest of the outfit, which this one, because he's completely symmetrical for the most part, this one was pretty easy. You get the black and gray, you get the little bit of the yellow gold in the center, that looks great. The red gloves, the darker shoes, like all that stuff looks good. The only bit that wasn't symmetrical is the little bit of the school badge on the chest. Which, you know, that would also be on the human character, so that's good practice to, if I wanted to do that in the future. And yeah, this is a pretty iconic look that I think with this designer ended up being represented pretty well. Like, this almost looks like it could have been an official one, because there's not much more you could really do with it besides the eyes, and even then looks pretty good. So the Joker, you gotta say, man, looking cool. Oh no, a persona. That's his iconic line. Of course I had to. Of course I had to represent one of my favorite boys of all time, Banjo and Kazooie. Not just Banjo, we did get Kazooie in there. kinda. Once again, we are very limited in what we can do here, so the idea of having Kazooie on the back, I was like, okay, how do I get the backpack and the back to work? But then I realized this is one of the big brain blast moments, and this is why I love this designer in general. So we go ahead and we make the brown, right? You know, we do the 2-color brown, that looks fine, that looks like a bear, I'm okay with that. And then quite simply, the spikes on the back, make them red. Make them red. That'll come out of the shell like it's Kazooie. You know, we'll make the shell blue to make it look like the backpack, and then yeah, that kind of gets the point across. You know, if you don't tell anybody, you know, what this design is before the rest of the outfits there, it kind of looks like a rooster, you know, which not ideal, not a bear, but a rooster, but you know, give it some time. And then it's the rest of the outfit. It's the iconic yellow pants with the belt buckle. It's the iconic light brown chest with the shark tooth necklace. You know, when we get down to the feet, we make it the lighter color, of course, but then like the Ridley design, we make the lines for the feet, which is perfect because Banjo already has that. You get the blue straps for the backpack to go down to the back, and that looks like he's actually wearing it, ready to go to school. And it should be no surprise to anybody because of how big of a platformer fan I am, and platformer mascot, Scrimblow Bimblow, however you want to say it. I am super happy with this design. This is probably my favorite one of the bunch. A few designs for this video are going to stay in the rotation, and this one I think is going to be up there as one of my go-tos if I ever come back to replay Poochy and Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo 3DS. It's the only Banjo game on 3DS, damn it. Okay, sure, let's go back to fantasizing some third-party characters that should have been in Smash, and this would have made a whole lot more sense. Shantae! Shantae would have made perfect sense for Smash Brothers. I guess that topic is neither here nor there, but I can live out my fantasies here by making a Shantae Yoshi. A lot of purple around the head. Like, that alone makes it very Shantae-esque, just a lot of purple. Now you tell me, Shantae has a bit of a gold band around her head under her hair. That is hard to convey with this character design, so I figured maybe we'd do a bit of a halo around the eyes, around the top of the eyes. Like that kinda looks like the part. When we look at the rest of the character, then a lot of that stuff still continues. A lot of straight lines that are cutting apart a bunch of the solid colors. So we have the revealing skin color, which is a bit weird to have a skin-colored Yoshi, but we got the red chest piece, we got the red pants, we got the gold belt, of course. The little bit of the black part at the very top of the pants, I think I got that part looking good. You know, there's also the gold bit around the big tuft of hair, around the big ponytail, so I put that on the quills, just a nice gold line before the rest of the purple shows up. I think this looks pretty good. You know, it's one of those things where the big purple is like the iconic part, and then it's a lot of tiny pieces, and so I think this looks good. I played around with this character a little bit. It does look like Shantae if your eyes are squinting a little bit, and you know, I think that's the best we could ask for. Ret2 Go. God, I love Shantae. Such a great character. And then another character that just makes sense, man. Another character that probably should have been in Smash to some capacity. Fine, I'll live out my fantasies and put Shadow the Hedgehog in Yoshi's Woolly World. Kinda similar to Samus and Link from before, we're basing this off of the primary Sonic model, where we have the main color of the black showing up in the nose instead of having it be the skin color. It does look a whole lot better that way. And because we are able to touch up a little bit of the spikes in the back, we can still put the top bit being red. It ends up looking pretty great, honestly. I love that. I love how the spikes look just like they would for Shadow. That's awesome. And then, yeah, you know, following the Sonic mentality, it's just we kind of stick to one color, being the primary color of black, but we get the white tuft of hair in there. You know, that looks cool. We get the armband in there, and what's nice is Shadow has that little bit of red that comes out from under the wristband, so I made sure to represent that, so that looks kind of cool. And then the iconic shoes, not the soap shoes, his little air skates, you know, had to get them looking right. And I think that gets the job done as well. Honestly, as simple as this was one of the fastest characters I was able to adapt into a Yoshi, but it looks like one of the more faithful designs out of this entire batch. Sonic's primary Echo Fighter, Shadow the Hedgehog, his iconic line, it's like taking candy from a baby. He is represented here in full glory. All hail Yoshi. And then there's just a couple characters that I thought would just be kind of funny. I think Leon Kennedy, like, yeah, would have been cool in Smash Brothers, but sure, but you know, regardless, same as Bayonetta, getting a rated M character to be a Yoshi is that's just a hilarious idea for me, and I love Resident Evil 2 and 4, so of course, I had to give this a shot, specifically the RE4 design with the coat, because why not? That's a little bit more iconic than the blue RPD outfit. So we follow a pretty similar design philosophy as the other human characters. We make it mostly skin color around the head, but a little bit of tuft of brown hair, sure. Once again, it all comes down to that coat. I base this more off of the design from the RE4 remake, which is a lot of darker colors, so really getting those colors to differentiate from each other, not the simplest thing in the world, so I went with a lighter shade of a blue for the shirt. I went with a nice light shade of like a bright orange-ish for the fur part of the outfit, because otherwise it just didn't really look right. I still wanted to make it look like the outfit, but still, goes down to the gray, goes down to the black, goes down to the shoes. You got the hand visible, that was important. You know, this looks good. It looks like a human with Leon Kennedy's iconic outfit. That's all you can ask for. Before things wrapped up, I did darken the colors a little bit there. I made his hair a little bit longer since his hair is all wavy and kinda long-ish in the remake, and it flows with the wind thanks to the glorious processing power of the new consoles for that game, so I wanted to represent that as best as I could. Couldn't get a gun visible like I could with Bayonetta, but even still, Leon S. Yoshi, I'm digging this. I'm digging this a lot. Where's everyone going? The Great Happy Tree? And then, yeah man, I don't know, this is just hilarious to me. Scorpion from Mortal Kombat as a Yoshi, that's funny. Taking these overly violent characters and making these adorable Yoshis out of them, like, it's great, because these characters still have iconic designs. Why not? Why not celebrate the iconic designs of Mortal Kombat in cute, woolly form? Sure. And creatively, this is also a bit of a challenge, because while it's obviously human-shaped, there's a lot more unhuman parts about him. All that's really there is a little bit of visible skin around the eyes, because he's otherwise covered in all of his suit. And, you know, there are a bunch of different Scorpion designs over the years in all the different Mortal Kombat games. I went with the more classic design. I think it's a little bit more iconic. The colors pop a little bit more, so that one made more sense to me. I'm sure you could put Mortal Kombat 1 or 11, whatever the numbers are, in this game, but, I think I went with the right choice going classic. Once again, another cool thing was being able to take the primary nose color and then transition it into the face. I like that, so it looks more like it's a full form-fitting outfit instead of just one random shade of yellow for the nose, so that looks pretty cool. I ended up going with like a really dark blue instead of black for the outfit. The artwork I saw made the character look like that, and I do think it pops a little bit more than just black. I could be wrong. Once again, there's a lot of different designs of Scorpion out there, but once we got that settled, we got his whole wrist getup going, so that looks pretty cool. That's where the things are that we could get over here. Like that's where that stuff is held. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to speak as little of a Mortal Kombat fan as possible, and I think I'm getting the job done there too. Because I mean, look at this. Does this Yoshi look like it would gouge your eyes out? The answer is no, and that's how they get you. It's always the ones that are the least suspicious. Watch out for this one. He's gonna get you. For the grand finale, I couldn't think of any character better than the way that Smash Ultimate ended, Sora. Let's get Sora in Yoshi's Woolly World. Once again, you don't really understand or appreciate just how many colors a character has until you're limited to only 7, and you gotta still make it work. But damn it, I got it to work, with like barely any sacrifices too. It was like just 7 colors was perfect to get this going, but man, it got close. So similar to the other human characters, we get skin color for the head, we get the brown going for the hair. Obviously we can't replicate the crazy spiky hair of the anime character aesthetic, but it still gets the job done. The shoes, the iconic clown shoes, with the yellow, the black, the gray, and a little bit of blue. It was like, of course I had to get the little bit of blue in there, otherwise it wouldn't look the part. What was interesting with this designer is there's like a little bit of a black strip, right, that you see like going up his foot in the direct center. It looks like the direct center, but if you look at the design, it's a little bit off to the side. I'm not sure why that's the case, but you know, working with what I've been given, we just take that black, put it off to the side a little bit, and then now it looks like it's in the center, even though it's not. So that was weird. It was this moment when I thought this designer needed a little bit of work. And then it's the rest of the outfit, and oh boy, there's just so much. There was so much to it, so many random straight lines of white and blue and black and more white, and then a lot of the chest is red, but then there's also a little bit more blue, but also a little bit more white, and you know, he has the crown emblem on his chest from the necklace, so I had to get that little bit of white in there too. But then I remembered that the design, you know, he's not wearing a shirt with all these colors, it's a jacket with a hoodie. I gotta get the hoodie in there somewhere, so why not take the shell on the back and have that replicate the hoodie? It does kind of blend in, so if you're not really knowing what to look for, because it kind of has the same color as the belt, so like once again, we're pretty limited here, but I think with the knowledge that is trying to be the hoodie, I think that does get the job done. It's like trying to be the hoodie that also melds in to the back of the outfit. It's tough, man. This was a tough one. There is so much design to Sora. I didn't even really get like the little chain bit that goes around the side of his leg, like just one of his legs. Like that could be added to with like a little bit of gray, but I tried that and it didn't come out. It just didn't come off like the way I wanted it to. This is one of those things where I could have used an HD version. This is only in the 3DS here, small paint canvas, even still, looks pretty good. And just to clarify, copyright Disney. Please don't take this video down. And those are all the designs I made just for this one little video because man, once I made that amiibo video and I made Minecraft Steve and then I posted on Twitter the designs and then people were sharing some of the designs that they were making, I just felt inspired to go in and make some more. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully some of you get inspired and make your own. I would love to see more of these things because man, it is so upsetting that this is restricted to the 3DS version and not the Wii U version. So it's such a niche mode that barely anybody got to experience. Like the game is incredible. This designer is just a nice cherry on top. Here's hoping that this game gets ported in the future with more amiibos in there. We get another character designer. It would be incredible. Pull up the Bayonetta Yoshi again. Fantastic.